Hi guys, good afternoon. I guess it's almost noon on the East Coast. So we're switching the format up a little bit for this week. And so what we're going to do is we're each going to go live individually and try to keep our videos to 10, 15 minutes. So you can hear individually how we each invite to coaching, which is a little bit different, and how we run our sneak peeks. And you can watch the videos really quickly and start implementing things. So I'm going first. Ashley Laughlin is going to follow a little later today, and then Ali Tassatori will be on tomorrow, and Ashley Smith will be on Thursday with your official call to action post. But as you guys watch these videos, know that your call to action is going to be to screenshot or share one of your public coaching invites from this week. So there's your heads up. And again, we're each going to do an individual video talking about exactly how we do that. So hopefully you'll get some good ideas from us and gain some traction from your post. So how do I invite to coaching, and how has it really changed? So I want to back up first. And I know most of you guys have probably done like avatar training, right? So you should have your avatar. You should know who you are talking to. So that's kind of step one before I even start thinking about posting is who is my avatar? Who am I talking to? And who am I trying to attract? And this is important because in your post, I'm going to talk a lot about storytelling. And for me, I do a lot of storytelling and connecting on an emotional level, right? And you need to understand the emotions of your avatar. So for example, for me, I talk to moms, mom bosses, mom. I talk to new moms, specifically new moms. And even more specifically, moms who want to come home to their babies. That is a huge emotion. So I'm speaking to my avatars why before they even know that they have it, right? So I know in my post that I'm going to do, in my story that I am going to tell, I want to make sure that that avatar sees herself. Okay, so what are these stories that I'm talking about? So you've got your avatar, you know who she is, her age, likes, dislikes, brands of things that she likes, all of those kind of things. And the more specific you get, the better you're going to be at reaching that person. So you've got your avatar. Then the next thing I do is what I call a worry web. And Ashley Laughlin actually kind of taught me about this. And what it is just taking those big kind of stories in your life, those things that you keep going back to and talking on social media, and breaking it down even further. Okay, so for me, I get this question a lot, right? So one of my big things was leaving my corporate job to be home with my son. Okay, that was like my big why. And I think that's a big why of many of the people that I'm talking to. But I get coaches who say, okay, so I've told that story a million times on social media, but what I want you to do is to break it down even further. Okay, so the original worry web that Ashley Laughlin kind of talks about are all those different stories that you have in your life, all the bits and pieces, right? So one would be like leaving corporate America. One would be my battle with food and clean eating and all these different things, right? So those are a bunch of different stories. But then I'm going to encourage you to take them and break them down even further. So for me, my corporate job is my big one that I talk about with coaching. So there are so many different stories within that one. So I have gone back and talked about my commute and getting on the train in the morning after walking to the train in the rain and getting on this packed train full of people, really hot and humid, and that feeling in there, right? I start by painting an image of my commute. And then I turn that commute, I talk about that story, and I turn that into a coaching invite post talking about, not having that anymore, being home with my son, the general stuff. But I start with that image, okay? That is still talking about leaving my corporate job. But again, it's a story, it's a vision that someone can relate to. Another one that I have done is talking about like my high heels and pencil skirts, right? So talking about getting dressed in the morning, what I wore, that picture of that corporate professional I thought that I always wanted to be. And now, living in like Target t-shirts and, my workout clothes and all of that. So that's something separate, right? It's still about leaving my corporate job. I paint the picture of myself sitting in my 14th floor office overlooking all of Washington, D.C. and being so unhappy. And yet, maybe that day I was sitting outside with my son watching him play in the yard, and how much more fulfilling that is. But it's all about painting those images. But those are all different stories: clothes, locations, feelings of commutes, dropping your kid off at childcare, whatever it is. One big story has a million tiny little stories built in it. We have different struggles every single day, and there's always a different reason, but it leads back to that one big one. So kind of breadcrumbing and sharing those small stories, while it all comes back to leaving my corporate job and wanting to be home with my son, it's a different way of telling it. It will connect with different people as they identify themselves in my story. And again, that is when people are going to join me, when they see themselves in my story. So don't ever feel like, oh, well, I've got this one story. I've told it a million times. That's all there is. Really dig into it and think of all the different ways that you can tell that one story. And really, for me, that's how I invite to coaching. So most of my invite to coaching is done publicly on my Facebook page. So I, on Sundays, plan out my week. I know which days I'm going to be doing those public invite posts. I run weekly sneak peeks into coaching. So I know, and there's 3-day sneak peeks. So I know that pretty much every Sunday and Monday, man, I am talking about coaching, and I'm publicly inviting. So I'm telling that story. And at the end of the post, I'll say, if you've ever, long to give up the commute for a simple morning with a cup of coffee, check out my sneak peek into coaching here. I just put the link and I allow them to join that way. So that is, and again, you can tell the whole story, and then it can just be like super simple. 1 or 2 sentences, and that's it. So Sunday, Monday, I'm usually doing the public post. Again, on Thursday, Friday, I'm sprinkling it in there because that's kind of me and Sam day when we have like a little date day. So they're seen. So even when I'm not inviting to posting, which I'm probably inviting 4 times a week with a link to my sneak peek, even when I'm not doing that, I'm breadcrumbing for this is what a life of freedom looks like, right? So if there's no invite at the end, they're still seeing that I have a life of freedom. I choose when I work. I choose what I do. And so I sprinkle that in every single day. There's always something about coaching. And again, in terms of my sneak peeks, I do run them weekly. It is a lot. I just found that I wasn't inviting enough, and I would just do 1 sneak peek a month. I found that I was really only inviting that week before. And if I wanted more business builders, then I needed to be talking about coaching more. So the other thing that I tell my coaches, you don't have to do weekly sneak peeks, right? But if you have maybe a webinar or a voice or an old sneak peek that you can add people to, use that. But always have something that you can send someone or add them to. So Lainey still suck at storytelling. One tip that I give people with storytelling and making it sound really genuine is literally tell the story and record it. So when you talk to people, that's how you want your story to come across. You want them to hear your voice. People can tell the difference between like something that's just like typed up and you've thought about it for hours and hours and hours, and something that comes like really naturally out of, in your normal voice. The better you are at taking that voice. And you guys, when I do, so you can also do interviews with people and have them ask you lots of questions, all the way about from childhood through now, right? So why did you decide to coach? But even before coaching, like what was your childhood like? And just start telling those stories, record it. Then I have had coaches who get that transcribed. So you can use like Fiverr or something, or find someone to transcribe it for you. And all those stories are then written out in your own language. but you could just record it and kind of go back and listen to it. And it's going to make telling those stories much easier and much more natural when you're first starting. For me, like I've gotten used to it. I kind of know my voice, so I can just sit down and type a post. But I'll also say when I'm really struggling on a post, I usually leave it and come back to it. Because again, you want it to sound really natural. You want it to be you telling a story, not you forcing something. So if it takes you an hour to write a post, it's probably a little too forced. Like take a step back and then start again. So avatar, know your stories, be inviting several times a week. I invite several times a week to a sneak peek or webinar or whatever it is. I'll tell you guys a quick few, just give you the outline for my sneak peek. We're all going to kind of talk about how we invite and then what our sneak peeks look like. So my sneak peek, it's a 3-day sneak peek into coaching. It is on Facebook. I go live on Monday and I talk about, my first one is who I am, what I do as a coach, and who I'm looking for. So that is literally just giving them my story, telling them what we do as coaches, and then flat out saying, I'm looking for business building coaches. And that's really important, is that you tell people what you want. Because if you want a top 10 coach on your team, then you better tell them you want a top 10 coach on your team. That's what I tell people. I want top 10 coaches beside me. So if that's what you want, that's what you tell them. My second post of that day is the common worries, fears, misconceptions. Then on Tuesday, I go live all about the money. So what it costs to sign up and how we make it. And then Wednesday, I am going live and talking about what you get when you join our team. All of the trainings, our team webpage, the community, all of that. And just getting them really pumped up, motivated. That's a great time to kind of give them motivational talk. Like, I know it's scary to join, but pushing past those fears, you could build an insane business. Like, who wouldn't do this? So that is what my sneak peek looks like. When did you start doing sneak peeks? So I started doing sneak peeks in month 2 of my business. I will tell you guys, I didn't have very many people join. I have run sneak peeks with no one on them. So when I first started doing them, I did some webinars. And again, I did sneak peeks where no one was on the webinar, but I recorded it so that I had it to send to other people. You guys, I run team calls with no one on it. For me, it was about practicing. It was about saying, hey, I did my team call. Hey, I ran a sneak peek. My belief was bigger than someone not showing up to a team call or a sneak peek. But I started running sneak peeks on my own month 2 of my business. And that's when I started my team page and when I started team calls as well. So I am going live in a Facebook group. And all my videos are live. Live on my stories. I mean, I feel like every day on my stories is a sneak peek into coaching. So I always show like my half-time hustle. When I do team calls, I talk about it. I'm planning a retreat right now, so I'm showing them parts of that. So every day is kind of a sneak peek into coaching. I have done like a full day sneak peek into coaching on stories as well. But Facebook group, I have them join. I know exactly who wants to be in there, and I am able to have conversations with them. Stories, some of those people may not hear anything about coaching. So it helps me to know exactly who wants to be in there and who's serious about coaching. So I am doing it in a Facebook group. Any other questions? Again, we want to keep these short to the point. Everyone's going to be going live, telling how they do it. You guys know, like Ashley Smith is like queen of Instagram and how she does it. Ashley Laughlin and I are more based on Facebook. So, it's all over. I know Allie recruits very differently as well. So this is awesome. So just keep in mind that on Thursday, we are going to ask you to share one of your coaching posts. So a recruiting type post where you are asking them to, join a sneak peek, fill out an application, message you for more info, however you do it. Again, I always put my link to my sneak peek, and that's kind of my public invite. And then of course, you guys should be doing private invites as well. I mean, we should always be inviting our challengers, our Rockstar challengers to coaching. But this is kind of how I do my public inviting and daily talking about coaching. I'm getting ready to do my coaching post right now. This morning was my Transformation Tuesday, like for challenger type posts. Now I know I've got to do my coaching post. So, keep that in mind too. It helps me on Sunday to have a plan of what I'm going to talk about because I found before when I was like a newer coach, I didn't talk about coaching a lot because I was uncomfortable. So knowing, all right, I'm going to talk about it here and here and here and here, just held me accountable. Another form of tracking. So hopefully that helps. Yay, catch it to under 15 minutes. Hope you guys have a good day. And Ashley Laughlin is going to be on a little bit later today talking about how she does everything. So if you guys have any other questions, post them in here and we'll be checking back in. Bye, guys.